that is ahead of us with a changing global climate is a flooding, a flash flooding. And so the rainfall pattern are changing, and so this is also a challenge for pastoralist community, and there will be also a flash flood which will be happening in the near future. So that would be one disaster, and there will be also a famine when the cattle start dying because of the drought. And since the lives of these pastoralists are depending on a livestock, and is shock for their lifestyle. So this is a disaster by itself.
Thank you. And now we precisely go to the specific area about environment. Your personal profile, we talked about your personal profile, the way you grew up in that rural area, then the way you went to the United States of America. Now comes the environment. When we talk of Ethiopia, we always say Ethiopia once upon a time was covered with forest. Some 40% of the land of this country was covered with forest. But now less than 3, some say less than 10. Whatever the case may be, forests were destroyed from the terrains of Ethiopia. Deforestation was serious. The government now is working something. What's your comment on that first?
Yeah, my comment is like I have been saying, Ethiopian natural resources and our environment has been abused for so many years, probably over 100 and something years. And we have never seen a government that gives a priority for a natural resource and environment. And their focus was just exploiting the natural resources. And they think these resources are finite, and forests are disappearing, and also the wetlands, and also the ecosystem are being destroyed. Chemicals have been discharged to water, and the water quality is degrading, and the forests are disappearing, and also the wetland, and all environmental situations in Ethiopia has been bad. But when we look at this moment, I think it's the beginning of the time when the Ethiopian government realized that sustainable development cannot be attained without efficient use of natural resources and protection of environment. And this is a very good sign. I think I commend especially what the Prime Minister is doing.
Now Ethiopia is planting tree seedlings. About 4 billion tree seedlings are to be transplanted this rainy season that the Prime Minister declared. I mean, does planting by itself mean something?
Yes, of course. The forest has two benefits or two advantages. And one is the ecosystem services. In ecosystem services, the forest prevent flooding. It also purifies the water. It also serves as a food for other community in the ecosystem. And again, the forest also prevent flooding, and a forest by itself in ecosystem has an advantage to maintain biodiversity. So the forest has a very good effect in sustaining ecosystem. The second advantage or the second benefit of forest is serving as the carbon sink. The global climate change, one of the green gas is carbon. So reducing a green carbon will reduce the speed at which the climate will be changed. So the planting a forest can dramatically reduces carbon and improve ecosystem services. And when we say a carbon sink, we have to think about the effect of global climate change, and especially those countries in sub-Saharan Africa are the ones that are very affected by climate change. The reason is their livelihood is depend on agriculture. And with changing global climate, the water resource are either polluted or the quality and quantity will be reduced. And also there will be pests which can affect the production of livestock and agriculture. So the yields are decreasing with a changing rain pattern, and this is one of the effects. The other is biodiversity. The global climate change will reduce the biodiversity, and also it damages the ecosystem. And also it has an effect on transportation. The temperature rise will affect the tarmac, the asphalt, and because of the hot temperature, the road will be cracking, the bridges are cracking and collapsing, and also there will be a flood in airport and on road. And also there will be economic, social, environmental shock because of that. So when we think of this effect, planting this much forest will hinder, like I said, the speed at which global climate change will occur. So in addition to that, what we need to do is we have to prepare ourselves for coming disasters through the climate change, which is a climate resilience, and we have to do that. Planting a forest is not like some people think it's a simple thing, but it's a matter of life and days. So what Ethiopia is doing is, I think this is a part of also the green economic strategy of the country. So efficiency of use of the natural resources. And lastly, last but not the least, the forest also change a microclimate. When we take some cities in Ethiopia, the temperature are increasing every time. So the forest has a lot of advantage, and what the country is doing is part of a strategy for sustainable development, efficient use of natural resources, and a protection of environment.
What can you say about this green economy that Ethiopia is working on? Now, Ethiopia is now producing energy from wind. Here in Adama, even we do have a wind farm, Adama 1 and Adama 2, and other wind farms as well, and hydroelectric power, the Grand Ethiopian Resource Dam, and many others are being built. What's your comment on this kind of?
Yeah, actually, energy is one of the producer of the greenhouse gases. And when we say greenhouse gases are increasing, it could be emission from automobile, and this is stationary emission from electricity. And by diversifying the source of energy from wind, from water, and also solar, and also wind farm. By diversifying the source of energy, we are reducing the emission of greenhouse gases. And this is a good approach also to reduce greenhouse gases.
What is expected, your message to Ethiopian people, the government, and also the public with regard to environmental protection? What's your message?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And some people think government is in charge of everything. And when we say environment, A government is living in an environment. The public is living in an environment. Environmental protection begins from individual, household, and how we use energy, how we use water, how we reduce waste. By individually making a commitment like that, we can reduce waste, emission of greenhouse gases, and we have to change our behavior, how to use resources. And the public can make a partnership with the government, and the government has to have a strong environmental policy and also strong institutions which can implement those policy. And working with private sector and government can reduce the environmental impact. It's a teamwork and a stewardship, environmental stewardship, and the partnership is very important.
You do have experience in urban and environmental planning as well. That's what I read from your profile. And what are you going to support your country in this regard?
Yeah, traditionally, most countries use traditional urban planning method.
What does that mean?
It's like a design for a city, and a beautiful design without a concept, without consideration to environmental protection. And now that is changing. So urban planning, integrated urban planning and environmental planning, and you will have environmental impact in your mind when you start designing urban planning. And what I can do is I can participate in capacity building and how the planner should integrate public interest, especially environmental interest in urban planning. Not also urban planners, even the decision makers. When you decide to start a project, you have to have its environmental impact in mind before making that decision. That is called strategic environmental assessment. That is a decision you made before the project starts. So I can do a capacity building and a consulting, and I can help with that.
Have you approached some government institutions or individuals in this regard?
Yes, I have. I have started talking to some officials in some cities, and also I started a conversation with government officials in the state of Oromia, and we have not yet started, but the communication is back and forth.
Wow, a wonderful thing. Anything you may raise about this environmental activities that Ethiopia is undertaking, and anything that is related with afforestation and reforestation activities being carried out in Ethiopia, that you may raise as an opinion, as a comment, as something left in that I haven't raised, so far?
Yeah, I think one thing I can see during my stay in Ethiopia is institutional coordination is absent. And Environmental Protection Agency in Ethiopia is charged with enforcing a regulation or standards. But other institution that has an impact on environmental factors should coordinate with other agencies to make a collective decision. For example, let's say land use bureaus are allocating a land, and probably when they allocate a land, they should have a coordination with Department of Emergency Management, which is, it could be an office that oversees a landslide,
yeah,
or
we say
flooding.
disaster and risk management.
Exactly, exactly. And also, they should have a coordination with Environmental Protection Agency if allocating a land for certain function is viable, or they have to train their staff very well about beyond land use and makes them aware of impact of their decisions. So as you can see, the link is missing, a coordination is missing there.
There is a gap.
Yes, there is a gap.
To be bridged.
Exactly. Technical gap.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you.
As your voice, we discussed a lot of things with Adam Wario, who lived in the United States of America for over 3 decades. He's an environmental scientist and a certified floodplain manager. For 25 years, he worked in this area. And he appreciated what the government of Ethiopia is doing to protect the environment, to afforest and to reforest the land, which was degraded due to different factors. And he said Ethiopia has got that hope of becoming a green country if the planted trees are well nurtured by the public and the government. And it's not only the issue of one part, but both together, working in unison, would succeed the plan that has been planned by the government of Abiy Ahmed so far. Thanks for watching. Have a good time. Bye-bye.